Greetings once again. Like I said earlier today, there will be a lot of news coming out over the next week or so. So here I am again this evening to let you in on a little bit of news. Got to make sure I turn off that baseball game before it's too much on the camera and then all kinds of other problems. We'll see if San Diego pulls it out tonight. Anyways, 3 years, $8.25 million is rumored to be the deal that Minnesota's working out with Carson Soucy. And, you know, Carson Soucy is a very good defenseman. That's one expensive blue line the Minnesota Wild have now. That is a very expensive blue line. And you got to wonder if maybe they're going to try to move out one of those players. If not now, and I know Dumba's been the one that's been rumored for a long time, but if they don't end up doing it now, they're going to have to before the expansion draft next year anyways, which is still going to happen. And the whole expansion draft thing becomes way more complicated if we don't have a 2020-2021 season than if we do. Because then the exposure rules, that just blows the whole thing up. So, Soucy signing for apparently 3 years, $8.25 million, so that's less than $3 million a year. Soucy, very good first year. Good signing by the Minnesota Wild should that come to pass. So yeah, we'll see about that. Cole Sherwood has signed a 1 year league minimum extension with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And for Sherwood, we'll see if he can stay up with the team or whether or not he ends up spending time in the minors. But at this stage, Sherwood, just depth for Columbus. They have a lot of depth. Which is good. They needed that this year because they had a lot of injuries. So that depth really came in handy for them. And Winnipeg Jets, I'm a little bit surprised and yet not. Laurent Brossoit is going to stick around for at least one more year. Signs a 1 year extension at $1.5 million. I think that's fair. Brossoit had a bit of a down year. He was excellent the year before. You kind of average it out and you say, yep, $1.5 million. That makes a lot of sense. Winnipeg now, their goaltending set. Now they get to go into free agency and deal with the defense. And the whole Patrick Laine, what are they going to do? Stuff that's still going on and still all over the place. I'm seeing headlines all over and a lot of Eichel headlines and like not clicking on that. Just doing my best to just, stick to the stuff that's happened or is happening rather than this crazy wild speculation. That's what forums are for and comment sections. Tyler Toffoli, he may sign to stay in Vancouver. I think there's an interest in Vancouver to keep him, and I think he has an interest in staying with the Canucks. I think he likes being a Canuck. The problem is money. He deserves to make money, and the Canucks, while they have a lot of cap space right now, they have a lot less next year in the offseason. So you can't afford to re-sign Toffoli and then dig yourself a hole that you can't dig out of next year. And so that's the issue. Now, I was 100% on board with, we got to keep Toffoli when I saw him in the regular season. But in Canuck games where Toffoli wasn't able to play due to injury, I thought the Canucks played really well. So I'm on the fence. If they sign him, great. They keep him around. That's awesome. I would love to see Toffoli and Pearson get back some of the chemistry they had in LA. But if they don't, I think the Canucks are fine. So I'm not a big fan of breaking the bank on any player right now because you've got Pettersson, you've got Hughes, and you've got Demko. Those are your three you have to worry about next year. So, got my Thatcher Demko jersey. Good, sure. Brendan Dillon, when asked about playing for the Canucks, he said he'd love to play for the Canucks. It's been his dream to be a Vancouver Canuck. I would love to see him play for Vancouver. The problem is you end up with a situation where Jordy Benn's probably on his way out of town. Brendan Dillon would be an upgrade on Jordy Ben. No argument about that. But finding somebody to take Ben's contract, and then while overhauling the blue line needs to happen, it's going to be really interesting to see how Jim Benning does it. Jim Benning was a defenseman himself. So he should be able to revamp the blue line, but people are going to say, well, wait a minute, why does he have to revamp the blue line if he was a defenseman? So I can understand both sides of that argument. Absolutely can. And this is a team that now the pressure's on the Canucks to take that next step. Like, okay, made the playoffs, got out of the first round, great. Now what? And this is right now where the rubber meets the road for Jim Benning, and we see whether or not the Canucks are going to continue that ascension, or if this was just a blip and they're going to drop right back out again. So Brendan Dillon could very well help, and I like Dillon, but again, the Caps are trying to make make room to keep him in Washington. So he may just be saying, yeah, I'd love to play in Vancouver. Now I'm going back to Washington. But it was great. Thanks. So yeah, we'll see what happens. The Maple Leafs have signed Dennis Malgin for 1 year at league minimum. Good, solid depth player. And again, for Toronto, the depth up front has been important. And it feels like every year Toronto's revamping their depth. What they did last year was basically Kyle Dubas just signed all kinds of fringe guys. Went, all right, we're going to sign like 4 or 5 different fringe guys. We're going to see what happens. And, you know, in the case of Spezza, it worked out pretty well. And Spezza, of course, when he was signed, the idea wasn't he was going to be a fringe guy. But then Mike Babcock was sitting him out. And, well, we know how Leaf fans felt about that. But I do like Malgin. I think he was a solid pickup. And I think, you know, at a league minimum, I don't think he hurts them at all. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Toronto. Of course, the big thing is, where are they going to get the sandpaper that they're going to lose with apparently Kyle Clifford going to unrestricted free agency? They do need some of that. They need that sandpaper they haven't had since trading off Nazem Kadri. And Clifford brought some of that, but now that's gone again. So we'll see what they do in free agency. Yes, Wayne Simmons may very well be the guy who signs in Toronto. The LA Kings, so their mascot was accused of sexual harassment earlier in the year. I don't think I reported on that. I think I just went, we'll put that aside. But he has been fired by the team. The team has fired him. This is in litigation, so because it's in litigation, they're not releasing anything. They haven't said anything other than they've let him go. So the actor that played Bailey, the mascot for the Kings, he has been let go. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that, for him. And the one good news for a sports franchise going through this is we just know the mascot. We don't really know the actor that's underneath the mascot's outfit. For instance, with Tommy Hawk and the way that he handles himself for Chicago, and he beat up somebody that tried to disrespect him. I just assume that it's Vin Diesel or Brock Lesnar or something like that underneath that mascot outfit for Chicago. So maybe it is. You know, well, I don't know what Brock did. Brock maybe wrestles once every 3 months. He's got time to be Tommy Hawk. He could be Brock the Hawk. You just don't know. So yeah. But anyways, yeah, we'll likely end up hearing more when this does or doesn't go to court and what happens with that. If it's reported, now that he's been fired by the Kings, it may just get pushed aside by the media. Brad Treliving, when talked to about what they want to do with the Flames, he's basically saying we're looking to deal with goaltending and the blue line. And that makes sense. Cam Talbot's going UFA. He has expressed interest in coming back to Calgary. I don't know if the mutual interest is there from Calgary. And in the case of their blue line, they've got some guys going to the unrestricted free agent market, and it might be in the best interest of the Calgary Flames to make some changes. We saw how Dallas took them apart, and there can be some blame thrown at the core guys up front, but the blue line definitely looked fragile as well. Allowing that many goals against Dallas and the way that they were allowed, if you're going to keep the coach, then you're going to change out the players, and since they're keeping Jeff Ward, then changing out the players makes sense. So we'll see what Calgary comes up with. I would expect them to be in the running for maybe a Torrey Krug. You never know. They could be a dark horse for a guy like Krug on the blue line. And in net, I think Braden Holtby is a good match if they can make it work under the cap. So we'll see. The Flames are going to be one of those teams to watch. And all the reports on Pittsburgh's goaltending, of course, both Jari and Murray are restricted free agents. And all indications are that Jim Rutherford is looking at moving Matt Murray. So Murray, by this time next week, may very well not be a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins, whether he works something out before the draft or before free agency or on free agent day. We may see a deal made where Pittsburgh makes a move. Maybe there's a team that isn't after Matt Murray right now, that when we get through free agency, they miss out on, say, Markstrom, and they miss out on Holtby, and they miss out on other goaltenders, Crawford. They say, you know what, we'll circle back to Pittsburgh. What do you guys want for Murray? And deal. So that may be what happens. I think Jari's probably the better goaltender. I agree. But those 2 cup rings that Murray has, we can all debate how how important he was to both of those Pittsburgh Cup winners, but somebody's going to take a flyer on him because he has those cup rings. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.